He has a request.
There it is.
All right, Plymouth Rotary's request that we get every year is that they're doing their hometown holiday parade and celebration on December 7th with a rain date of December 8th. And they would like to be able to use our property that is down by the senior center for wood and things that they do every year. So I need a motion that we say
Motion
yes.
that we approve the Rotary request for the bonfire.
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cool. Done. Yay.
It's nice to put a check mark on.
I know.
Kim, will you let the deputy chief know?
Thank you. And we've already talked about rate structure, the software conversion update. We did our purchase orders. So we are to the public comment section of the meeting. Does anyone have any public comment?
I guess I do. My name's John Swan. I came down from Dalton, New Hampshire. Obviously, I'm a resident of the state. And I attended the hearing in Concord, where you're one of the co-plaintiffs for the suit against New Hampshire DES relative to the new PFAS standards. And, I just wanted to say, this is something that's come on my radar 6 months ago, and I formed a group, Save Forest Lake, because we're fighting a landfill battle up there. This is obviously something that's very related because it's relative to the standards for drinking water for the people of this state. And I really just think it's very misguided and very poor optics on your part to be a co-plaintiff in a suit with 3M versus the state and standards meant to protect people from these chemicals that are obviously present and need to be mitigated. And I found it interesting with the 91A, getting the documentation, only a portion of it, but seeing the communications with RMI Inc., who is your distributor for biosolids. It's interesting because obviously they're a co-plaintiff as well, and it seems like they're already trying to distance themselves from responsibility. In the email or the letter sent from MRI, I think it was, 9/23/19, they talk about PRP, primary responsible party in this. And obviously the mitigation that falls on that, or the responsibility that falls on the PRP relative to corrective actions. And it seems like they're looking at the municipality as being the source for PFOA, PFAS, whatnot, in the biosolids that they seem to be distributing across the state. And I just think that's something that you really need to reconsider, because it seems like you're being set up to take a fall by RMI, and the optics are really bad that 3M sought you out because they need a municipality in order to, they need a municipality for the unfunded mandate, part of their argument in the injunction. So again, I just think it's something you need to consider, because the optics are poor, and I really think in your position, your mantra should be do no harm. And right now, because of 3M, it seems like you are saying it might be too expensive to not do no harm. So anyway, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Do we have?
Well, I'm happy to explain. I was the one who recommended that we join in on the suit, and the reason we affiliated was we simply don't have, we have a $10,000 legal budget, so we don't have the funds to pursue it ourselves. But if you followed the process, you would understand that there's a strong element. Our consultants, who are both scientists and engineers, have advised us that the science isn't there, A, and B, one of the big issues for us is the unfunded mandate. There is a statute that says if the state requires you to do something you are not now doing, regardless for the reason they require it, that we are to be indemnified. And there are a fair number of examples, and I pointed out to the board that the education system in New Hampshire, the retirement system in New Hampshire, are all things that that the legislature promised to support, and then at the end of the day didn't. And so we're a district of 1,100 customers, and the remediation costs would bring us to our knees. So as we said in our release, we're not asking them to negate it, we're asking for a do-over. And for the issue of who's going to pay and how are the funds going to be generated, be addressed as part of the regulation process.
And unfortunately, some of the issues come down to the fact that we have had our water tanks tested. We come under the 20 parts per billion. Trillion, right. I know it's the T, it's all those zeros. So our water right now, our water that we are delivering to our customers is showing no PFAS, PFOAs, all of those PFAS chemicals. The issue is when the water gets into the households and people are washing their Teflon pans and using certain dental flosses, washing their fabrics that contain Gore-Tex, all of those items, as well as a, unfortunately, laundry list of others, contain those chemicals. And that goes into the wastewater stream and gets into our sludge, which gets into landfills, et cetera, et cetera.
So we're the recipient.
We're the recipient of these chemicals that are not coming from our own water. So what we're trying to do is find that balance of how do we deal with the fact that we now have these chemicals in our waste stream that were never delivered to our customers, but how do we get rid of them properly? And as far as we understand and know at this point is that the science is not there to explain how to get rid of them. The money is not there to help us figure out how to pay to get rid of them. So as you stated, we are in between kind of a rock and a hard place. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense.
This kind of sounds like 3M speaking, but
Oh, I don't speak for 3M at all.
Just saying.
Dick Lewis, I am a customer of the district. I'm also an employee for the city of Franklin, so I'm very familiar with the unfunded mandate problems. I agree with the previous speaker in sort of his comment about the assets of all of this. If I may just ask a couple of questions.
We may or may not be able to answer them.
Okay, well, hopefully so. DE has changed the threshold for PFAS chemicals to the 1 part per trillion. Prior to that, it was 1 part per million, or was it billion? Million or billion?
Billion.
Billion.
Right, Jason?
No, that's not
Yeah,
correct.
okay,
No.
not correct.
70.
In 2016, DES adopted a 70 parts per trillion emergency rule for PFAS in drinking water chemicals. We have a direct contact limit of 500 parts per billion in biosolids and sludge. And that is not a maximum contaminant level, that is a screening and monitoring level.
So I guess one of my questions wasn't that screening and monitoring occurring before this shift to the 1 part per trillion? So you were already doing that testing? Was that
No, we have
nothing?
not tested for that previously.
Was there no mandate to do that testing?
There was no requirement, yeah. So the mandate, I think what's confused a lot of times is the mandate to require the testing for drinking water was part of the unregulated contaminant rule through EPA in 2016, which only applies to larger systems. So our system, I believe, is under a population of 10,000, and we didn't fall within that required testing, so we were asked to voluntarily test in 2016.
Which we did.
And we had, at that time, it was 70 parts per trillion was the EPA health advisory, which the state adopted. So when we tested, the lab we used to test had the reporting limits at 20 parts per trillion and 40 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS. Well, we tested non-detect was the result, which means anything under the 20 or 40 parts per trillion. So at that time, we thought we were okay based on the 70 parts per trillion level. But that's not the case at this time. We're unsure exactly until we do further testing what our actual drinking water limits, our drinking water results fall into. The issue with the biosolids is that, as John had mentioned, we are being looked at as the primary responsible party for these contaminants, and which Judy explained are passed through not only human bodies based on the products that we use every day, but it also gets into our wastewater. And we are not generating the chemicals in our wastewater. They're merely a byproduct of human consumption and washing and the different materials that have these chemicals in them at very, very low levels. So PFOA and PFOA and PFOS and all of the PFCs are ubiquitous throughout the environment. So we probably wear them every day. Probably have them on my boots right now. Probably have them on my vest. And I'm going to go home and wash it. And what happens to that when I wash it? It goes into the wastewater stream. And then we are then looked at as the responsible party to treat for these chemicals before we discharge them. And with that comes exorbitant amount of cost to be able to get to the levels of parts per trillion. Currently, there is no treatment on the wastewater side that is proven to remove these contaminants in the parts per trillion levels. So what we have coming down the road in January are surface water regulations through DES. And what that will entail is our discharge from our wastewater treatment plant to the PVWSD River here, as well as leaching standards for the biosolids that we land apply. So right now, DES on the wastewater end says we're in 100% compliance with our biosolids and land application. But if you talk to the drinking water side, they say, no, you have the potential to be the responsible party if nearby drinking water wells get contaminated from land application of sludge. So that does put us between a rock and a hard place. We have pretty much very little to no options to dispose of our sludge material in landfills. A lot of the landfills throughout the state have closed their doors to materials like this because they don't want the responsibility or the liability of it. So what do? What is the solution? I'm looking for answers to that as we, every day.
RMI's selling it to farmers or whatever. It's going on the land. Basically
What are they supposed to do though when DES tells them they're 100% compliant?
Well, again, they're a plaintiff, they're a co-plaintiff in this suit. There's something going on that needs to be mitigated, obviously.
And who's going to pay for that?
Okay, Jason. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Bill, did you have more questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Can I ask questions?
Yes.
My name is Susan Mathis. I'm a ratepayer here in Plymouth. I became aware of this issue by a simple Facebook post. I'm not a chemist or a waste engineer, but I'm a ratepayer and a citizen of the planet, and now I'm a curious activist. I read the statement that you issued and I called Mr. Jutton. Is that how you say your name?
Yes.
And then I went to try to learn some more. PFAS are biopermanent carcinogens and toxics that are found to be linked to a variety of adverse health effects, of which you know. Reproductive, endocrine disruption, cancer, thyroid issues, and coincidentally, New Hampshire has the 4th highest rate of cancer in the US. Our drinking water is very clean, like you said. What comes into the system is great, and we appreciate that. That's in part what we pay for and why we employ you, and thank you very much. So the real issue here is not the water we drink, but the wastewater and the biosolids that are produced by our treatment plant, the plant that we pay for. These PFAS manufactured by 3M and others enter our world, the water and sewer district world, through all the consumer products you mentioned: pizza boxes, fabric, Gore-Tex, food containers, all the non-stick cookware, cosmetics, fabrics of all types. And alas, they arrive at our water treatment plant. I understand that the safe thresholds for PFAS in the biosolids have not yet been clarified by DES. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But that they are likely to be extremely conservative. And I've learned that you're waiting to learn these thresholds, but you joined the lawsuit even before these thresholds have been established. When I heard this, I read your public statement on the issue. Your statement infers, in essence, that you know you are spreading these toxics that will likely be in excess of the anticipated standards, and you state explicitly that you think it will be too expensive to test and clean up these biosolids. So you're partnering with 3M in order to be relieved of these anticipated high standards for protecting our waters and lands. If we, all of us, me included, are responsible for the spread of biosolids containing these toxins, then we are responsible for these toxins entering the food stream, poisoning us, and putting farmers and dairy out of business, entering the drinking water supplies of all the people downstream from Plymouth. I acknowledge that I personally contribute to the PFAS in our biosolids. We all do. So we can either keep them out of the waste stream, which would be financially devastating to 3M, I might add, or we could pay for our poor choices and clean up our biosolids. Very expensive, absolutely, but it's our responsibility to clean up after ourselves. By entering this lawsuit and joining 3M, the manufacturer of these toxics, and by your public statement, I believe you're acknowledging that the biosolids that Plymouth Water and Sewer gathers together, collects, are known or suspected to contain biopermanent carcinogens. We have testing now that says you have 26,000 parts per trillion of these biotoxins in the biosolids. And you are asking for relief to continue to collect them, including from sources outside of the Plymouth Water and Sewer District, because you collect, I understand, about 750,000 gallons of effluent from outside of the district, which is also likely contaminated. You sell the biosolids and you cause them to be used to pollute our lands and waters. If I were a downstream water user, I would take special note of Plymouth Water and Sewer's position on this issue, as evidenced by participation in the lawsuit and the public statement. And if PFAS were to appear in my well, stream, or lake, I would know where to go. I find it curious that you decided to join the lawsuit. Granted, 3M manufactures these substances and makes huge profits from their use in all manner of manufacturing. The other named parties is RMI, our Holderness neighbor, who sells the byproducts of these biosolids. They're making money from the distribution of these toxic substances. The other named party is a farmer who uses these biosolids and has a financial interest and/or an employee or ownership interest in RMI. So 3M, RMI, and the farmer RMI person are all making money at the expense of the environment. Is that why we're partnering in this lawsuit? Because we, the sewer district, are making money on the collection, sale, and distribution of materials containing toxics? So I decided to look at your mission statement. And I know you know this, but your mission is to provide the highest quality water distribution and wastewater treatment possible. The commission and staff members' primary responsibility is to the ratepayers. So in closing, since you're responsible to me, a ratepayer, I have to say, I have learned as a ratepayer that you accept approximately 750,000 gallons of PFAS and toxic-laden waste from outside the district. I understand that you're making money on accepting this waste. I request that you stop accepting toxic-laden effluent from sources outside of the district until such time as you are able to ultimately clean their byproducts to meet the newly established thresholds prior to their resale. By your own admission in your public statement and by partnering with 3M in a lawsuit, you are knowingly selling toxic biosolids that are likely to be in excess of the new standards. I request that you stop selling toxic-laden biosolids to be spread on and poison our lakes, waters, lands, and oceans. The state is also suing 3M for its role in producing these biopermanent toxics that pollutes our land and waters. My state taxes are being used for the state lawsuit. My water rates are being used to pay for the lawsuit against the state, so I'm paying for both sides of this issue. I object to Plymouth Water and Sewer using its time and resources to, in effect, defend 3M. I do not want my water and sewer fees used to defend your right to pollute our landscapes and waters with cancer-causing toxics. I request that you withdraw from your partnership lawsuit with 3M and instead commit your efforts to planning for and complying with the clean water standards that will be specified. That's your mission, that's what we pay for you to do, and that's what we expect.
Well said.
Thank you. Is it possible to have a copy of the letter?
Sure,
We appreciate it.
I'll email it to Mr. Dutton.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any response to it? Was I wrong in any of these? Like,
Yes,
what-
we don't sell,
Yes,
we
I
don't
was just
sell
gonna say,
sludge, we
we
pay to have
don't.
it hauled away.
So RMI takes it from you.
We pay them to haul
You
it.
pay them to haul away, but you
Correct.
know it's got these carcinogens in it when they take it away. So you know they're going out onto the landscape. And
But
you do
I would
accept,
encourage, oh,
you do accept sludge effluent, I don't know what the word is, from the
septic-
other
septic-
cities.
septic
We
waste.
are,
Other
what we
places.
accept is
Pumping from septic.
septic
tanks.
tanks being pumped from people's private homes
Only within the district or outside? the district?
outside the district.
Okay, so I was correct on this. Okay.
Ish, yes. Okay, we're not going to other treatment plants and taking away their sludge. These are private homes,
Sure.
just
Right.
like your,
That have PFAS in them, and you're
just
accepting
like
them.
everybody's.
Yeah.
Yep. So, any other public comment?
Could I just ask an administrative question? When I got here about 20 minutes after 5 and we were already basically all the way through the agenda. Did
Our-
the meeting start at 5 or 5:30?
Our meeting started at 3:30. It was posted as a change.
It says on the board 5:30 outside the building. I looked on the website, it said 5:30. I emailed Don Jutton, and he told me 5:30.
Yes, and then we posted a work session, a
Right.
board meeting.
A work
For this,
session.
Right.
Which is the same, according
But-
to our attorney, it's
So
the
the
same.
sign says
Well,
5:30.
I didn't check the
Well, it
sign.
does,
Well, your
it does look,
emails.
because you were
Okay.
very flippant when they did say, this gentleman said, the meeting starts at 5:30, and you're like, well, we were in session at 3:30, so we haven't left, even though you did go into private session. So just to say, you know, it kind of comes
Okay.
off, again, optics
So,
are poor, that's all.
The meeting changes were posted. We apologize that they weren't on the sign. I will tell you what we did while you were not here. We went over the adoption of a new rate structure, and talked a little bit about that. We talked about software conversion updates. Our software, we are changing from one software supplier to another software supplier to do all of our billing. We talked about what that update is and where we stand on that. And we just went over a list of purchase orders. That is all we covered before 5:30.
Can I ask questions about this lawsuit and why you're going to continue to be part of it? And
As of right now, no. It's attorney-client privilege at this point.
you're not allowed to discuss with your ratepayers why you're in this lawsuit?
Well, we've made our statement. We believe that two things. One is that the process did not follow the process prescribed by statute. Our consultants and our staff have provided input, went to the hearing, and no input was allowed at the hearing. and they did not address the issues of unfunded mandate or the district's liability.
How do we pay to fix this?
How we pay to fix the problem. And so what we're hoping to do is, and our statement reflects it, that what we're hoping for is a do-over, an opportunity to have more input, not only from us, but none of us are scientists. The consultant that we use, Emery and Garrett, has provided us with information, and that information is available that suggests that the scientific standards and what are being adopted are two separate things. I mean, the federal standard right now, the federal government hasn't even set a standard. The federal government has issued an advisory at 70 parts per trillion. And that was the initial conversation with the state then adjusted that downward and received input at around 30, and then made a decision without any public input to reduce it down to the levels that are at now is 12 and 20. And so we're doing the best, or the district is doing the best it can with information which is extremely complex. Not the least of which is this is the first environmental contaminant that's measured in parts per trillion instead of parts per billion. And so we're trying to figure it out the same way you are trying to figure it out. But we also have a fiduciary responsibility to all of you folks.
But you also have an environmental responsibility.
Right. We're in the environmental business. That's what we do. And so we have an appreciation for that.
So when you go to court to try to be relieved.
We're not asking to be relieved. We're asking for the court to instruct DES to go through the process that's prescribed by statute to receive public input into what the standards will be and to pay for scientists to provide them with the input. I mean, there's a long history, and if you want to do the research, we're happy to provide you with the information and point you in the direction. But there's a long history, including the state itself, DES, saying it did not have sufficient staff capacity to do the environmental evaluation, to do the scientific evaluation. And that's all we're asking.
But they haven't set the standard, so how can you?
They have set the standard.
They have set the standard.
They have set the standard.
They have?
For drinking water, absolutely.
Right, but not for the biosolids coming out.
But it's, I understand, right, correct.
Right. So how can you make a statement that it's exorbitantly expensive and it would be terrible for the
Because there is no
to comply with these standards when you don't know the standards?
Because there is a state statute that says there has to be, they have to indemnify us for the testing, but we also know what's going on in other parts of the state. I mean, we know that there was an article in last night's paper about the cost in Merrimack going over $25 million. And so we have a sense of where it's going. All we're asking is to revisit the process of adoption for the state to pay for, to use the $6 million that they've set aside, to pay for the scientists, to gather the data, and to come up with a standard that, one, meets the scientific test. We know, as an example, that right now there is not proven technology to allow us to remove it from the sludge. We're paying $70 a ton now to get rid of the sludge. We've gone out for quotes. We found two places where we can get rid of sludge. One is the landfill that you're trying to close, and the other one is in Canada. And so what we're trying to do is behave as rationally as we can in a rather emotionally charged situation. It obviously is not going to satisfy you, but we are doing the best we can, and we're not just operating willy-nilly. We are looking at the information that's available. We're consulting with the folks who are the scientists and who are the engineers. Our engineer was here earlier. She wound up leaving. But we are talking with the people who tell us that this decision is a responsible decision.
To enter the lawsuit
Yes.
is a
It's
responsible decision.
Yes, to try and get the process taken back several steps and to get the scientific data necessary to make a decision that's as broad as this decision is.
Why was there urgency? Why did you have to file with 3M?
Because we couldn't afford to do it otherwise.
Well, are all the other municipal treatment plants in New Hampshire complying right now?
No one is.
You'll have to ask.
Yeah, you'd have to ask
You'll
them.
have to ask DES.
Well,
I have two questions. I may.
Uh, Hang on, just a second. So one of the things that, there's a second part of this that I think people are not quite understanding. And that is right now, there is no science to tell us how to get rid of it. So the state is saying, you have to. There is a very big question and a very big monetary responsibility as to how to get rid of it.
Or keep them out of the waste stream to start with.
And
That's
how
not
do
within
we,
our power, you know.
that's not
Well, you're
within,
in a lawsuit with the person that creates them, so,
They stopped using it, as we understand it, in 2000, in the year 2000.
pardon me?
They
and,
stopped using it in the year
fall,
2000.
There's new
So,
Right, but-
so, you know, I mean,
Janet.
but the deal is it's not just 3M, okay? It's
Right.
Glide Floss, it's chocolate cake mix, it's your Gore-Tex, it's.
Absolutely.
So,
It's really awful.
so whether we're in a lawsuit with 3M or not, I think we need to take a step back from that and understand that we are actually in the lawsuit because we are worried about the people of Plymouth. And we are worried about how we can take this science for a limit that we don't yet know, and as of January 1st, have to figure out how to clean it up
Or pay to dispose.
or pay to dispose of it.
Well, right now, it's going on land in New Hampshire. But I actually have two questions. One, who made the initial contact relative to actually joining this case, this injunction? Did 3M reach out to you?
No.
Did the
No.
Bio, I don't even know their name,
No.
association?
no, I learned
That
of it, I learned of it through an email, that there was a meeting in Concord that was going to address this. I called the lawyer's office and I said, what's the story? What's going on?
What lawyer's office?
McLean Graff.
But
Is that
Why
your,
did
is that
you
your
call
normal
them?
attorney?
No,
Okay, so why did you call him?
because it was in the email. It was where the firm where the meeting was being held.
So the firm was
McLean Graff.
fishing and sought you.
No, it came from
No,
one of our
it didn't.
association, well, I can't remember the association,
No, it was through RMI.
I was through our.
Oh, well, there you go, they were fishing. They found you.
No,
You just said it.
Okay, we can,
But anyway, I just wanted to know that, so thank you. The second, can I ask annually, so 2018, 2019, how much are you paying RMI to take your biodiesel, your bio solids?
$70 a ton.
But how much do you spend?
about 1,000 wet tons a year, so about
About
$75,000 to
$75,000.
$85,000.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, Susan, to your point, you're paying out of your fees to them to dispose of this on land in New Hampshire. So, yeah, just enough by it.
And so what would you have us do with it if we don't get rid of it?
It comes to a point where we've got to stop and we've got to take a look at things like
But-
right now.
but the
that's not-
question
that's not the
is,
answer
that
to the
doesn't
question.
ask-
What would
right.
you have us?
I'd like-
Well, right now, the suit is biosolid companies and 3M asking you to join in so that you can go after they can go after the unmandated, unfunded
No,
mandate.
that's-
That's what happened. So you're siding on the biosolids, which the standards haven't even been set yet. So right now it's the water, and you're saying you're in compliance on the water, right?
No, that's not what we said.
I thought you said you had no detections under 20 and 40.
We had no
right?
detections when the level was set at
at 20,
20 and 70.
Okay, so what is it, 14 now, I think? Or
12.
12 and
12,
20.
and you were
12
at
and
20 maybe?
we were non-detect at 20.
Okay, so that's a little bit of mitigation. But to
That's
join
our
the suit,
That's
water.
on the
right,
source.
I understand.
That's on the source. So
But you're filing suit on right now on the water standards, the biosolids standards haven't even been set yet, but you're siding with the biosolid companies that are profiting from this. And it's not only just RMI, it's Casella Organics, that's what they call themselves. They're in the biosolid business. These guys have a lot of money. How come they haven't worked to take some of their profits and go to the manufacturers and say, hey, let's cut down on the amount of plastics?
You're
et cetera?
asking the wrong people.
I
right,
understand, but it's all relevant. That's why I came down here from Dalton. I'm fighting a landfill, but right now I'm involved with the PFAS because it's all relevant to our drinking water. Forest Lake, we want to keep it pure as it is. instead of having a landfill company come in and bring in more out-of-state waste from Massachusetts so they can pollute the North
Were it
Country.
only as simple as you see it as. I mean, with the information out there, if you do the research, you'll find that if you look at the standards, EPA has yet to set a standard. They're at a 70 parts per billion advisory. If you look around the world, you know, Canada is at 200 or 220 parts per billion.
Per billion.
Per billion, or per trillion.
Trillion.
Per trillion.
Okay.
And we have cancer and Alzheimer's and autism that we didn't have in the
I get it.
70s.
I get it, but the problem is that the science, that we don't have science that supports the direction that we're going in.
So
And
the
America.
granulated, activated carbon doesn't work, anionic exchange resins don't work. I mean, people are working on this.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
Absolutely.
that's
So have you
correct.
exhausted all those options?
No,
Have
we
you
haven't
looked into
exhausted all those options. But when a law becomes a law, we're under an obligation to try and obey it, and we accrue liability associated with not being able. It's not as simple as you're trying to make it out to be.
Right, it
I
would
think
be,
it actually could be more
Okay,
simple.
all right, well, then we'll have to respectfully disagree.
Your job as being paid for by the ratepayers is to find a way to keep it clean, not find a way
Susan?
to not
Spreading it.
can,
spread it.
all right,
So you're
so,
right, it's not going, we're not going anywhere.
no, I agree. I mean, we definitely agree that there are these chemicals out there. What we're not agreeing with is how to get rid of them. And yes, sure, we can stop doing our sludge. Where do we put it in the meantime?
Let's talk to the landfill
No,
manufacturers, the
just,
people who are also
just,
creating leachate.
excuse me, I get to talk now.
Oh.
Okay, so the question is, where do we put it? We're gonna keep building it up. It's gonna stockpile in our plant. Where do we put it? So that's open-ended question. There's no answer to it right now.
And we are trying to solve the problem.
Right. The other thing is there is no science right now that tells us how to get rid of it. If the science were there, then we could start investigating as to how to retrofit the plant to remove the chemicals. But the science is not there currently.
So these things that I Googled on some dumb.
No, they are not there yet for wastewater. That's the issue. We've got plenty of information for the water side, very little information for the wastewater
There's no
side.
place anywhere in the world that deals with PFAS. They
I
all
can't
just
answer that
include-
question. What I can tell you is that right now, what we are trying to do is figure out how to make this work without raising these rates that you guys are paying
I'll pay to have it clean.
exorbitantly.
See,
I'll pay to have it
You're
clean.
siding with the devil in this. You just said, you're dealing with the waste. You're not talking about the water in the suit. The standards right now are about the water.
Yeah,
You're
we're going
joining
on.
with the biosolid companies. So how about a motion from the board to reconsider? Go take a public vote to see if you want to reconsider joining this suit.
We are in the middle of the lawsuit and are waiting a result.
You can always withdraw. Can't, you always have
At
the
the
right.
moment, we are waiting for a ruling. And that's all I can say.
Okay.
And right now, we just don't have answers. I wish we did. I wish we knew how to do it. It would make this conversation so much easier if we had a way to get rid of
So
it.
you're saying there's zero science for
Not that
dealing
we
with
know
PFAS.
in the wastewater stream.
Right, and the way, so all
Right.
over the world, no one is dealing with
I
this.
don't know the answer to that question because I'm not all over the world. All I
We're not
know
an
of
engineering firm.
right now in the United States, there is no known science to get rid of it in the wastewater stream. That is what I am
In the entire
saying.
United States, everyone is doing
Correct.
what you're doing.
Yes, as far as we know, correct. Or burning their sludge, which is another toxic environmental nastiness. That's why we stopped burning garbage and things like that. So yeah, as of right now, there's no known way. Our science doesn't. I see him. Bill?
Ask a question, Judy.
Steve?
Part of it.
Madam Chair. So if you, so the suit that we are currently engaged in, does it have any limits? So if the motion is denied at the whatever court level it now is, which is Superior Court, then do you have the option to leave the suit?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if this, the very first option for you to leave the suit, it will be after this, what, 2
We're
weeks,
waiting.
2 weeks from now?
We don't know.
We don't know.
what the
That
judge will
was
decide.
part of our discussion
So,
earlier
if you-
as to we don't know when the ruling will be.
So, just from layman's point of view, to wage a suit on a constitutional basis, for unfunded mandate, seems a little improbable based on the fact that you don't know what the mandate is. That's right.
We do know it's gonna cost us.
Well, but you don't know what it is, so you don't know what that is. You have a situation where, yes, it could, but I mean, I don't usually go, well, let's not go there. But it does seem improbable. I mean, so you must have made some calculation about the probability of this suit going forward in order to spend the, whatever it is, up to $200.
What motivated us?
$2,500.
What motivated us to go ahead initially was a requirement from our vendor, RMI, to indemnify them.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't want to.
And
That we
we're
can't.
obviously not in a position to indemnify
can't.
anybody.
Right.
And so the issue then became, they won't take our sludge. And then the issue became, okay, where do we go with our sludge? We called
It's
three
this.
places. The waste facility in Rochester, Turnkey, said they won't take anymore. Casella said that they would take it for $200 a ton, 200, 180, 182, plus requiring odor treatment. And the third option was having it trucked to Canada.
Canada. Because their levels are higher.
And so, and then the next option, as we understand it, in talking with other facilities, is there is a landfill in Ohio. But the cost of getting it to Ohio is,
Right, and-
Probably.
Right, and so-
it's a liability question.
It's coming
It's a
back
liability
to,
question for RMI.
but it's
They don't-
also coming back to, for us, we generate the sludge.
But they're the distributor, and if they would.
If we cut them, all right, let's cut RMI out of the question. If we generate the sludge, let's get rid of RMI. We're gonna pay $200 a ton to ship it to somewhere.
Possibly more.
like this gentleman's backyard.
Private vessel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
And then the beauty is Casella gets out in 2024 sooner because they filled up the capacity then by Casella.
well,
All right, so
And we go to zero
Casella,
waste,
so
we look at
Casella's one
practical
place we go,
solutions.
Ohio's another place we go, more expensive. Canada's another place we go, more expensive. So it is all going to come back to the fact that you guys flush, I flush, we wash dishes, we do our dishwasher, we do laundry. It's gotta go somewhere. Right now, it's going to the plant, and we either let it sit there and build up and build up and build up, or we get rid of it. And we don't know how to get rid of it. If we're talking the it being the PFAS, which as I was saying before, we don't know how. And no matter what, it is going to come back and it is gonna cost every ratepayer a lot more money. And part of the issue is we have a lot of people in this town that cannot afford what the state potentially could be asking us to do.
All over the state.
Well, let's do Plymouth.
Yeah.
You know, what the state is gonna be asking wastewater treatment plants to do is going to become very expensive.
Are the MBTE, what is it, MBTE?
MBTE.
Are those
MTBE,
trust, is that trust
MBTE.
fund available for this work? 240 million, is it?
I don't
I was
believe.
gonna
I
ask
don't think so, because it's a
Well,
different,
You don't
Actually,
know? Okay, could be available, maybe?
it's-
possible, that would be nice.
funds from that account are being used by the town of Merrimack and other southern communities to install new drinking water lines.
Wait, this drinking water.
To-
MTBE is a drinking water standard, not a wastewater standard. So we're,
But
It's-
you don't know.
But you don't know yet.
right, but again, our drinking water's clean. So we don't have we can't take advantage, as far as I know, of the MTBE funds because it's a drinking water and we don't have drinking water problem.
Have you
We
applied
have,
for
Why are
those
you in a
funds?
suit then, over drinking water?
we're not,
The standards right now are for drinking water.
And
This-
groundwater,
and groundwater,
which
right.
Haven't
we
been
have the
established.
potential, just like Steve said, the liability there
But we
for
don't-
us to land apply the solids and have potential leaching into the ground and contamination of
Downstream.
other public drinking water
And,
systems.
and
No
the
matter
thing,
where we
right.
deposit the stuff.
And the thing about it is that part of the issue is that when the state started discussing this, there was no input from the scientists that we really wanted input from. It seemed to be a very disjointed, closed mandate.
We have one of the premier groundwater scientists in the world live in Meredith.
And he's working with us to help us figure this out.
And he's working with us to try and help us figure this stuff out.
Did he recommend you join this lawsuit?
No,
We didn't ask.
we didn't ask him. Nor would we. Why would we ask a scientist? You know, it's kind of like asking a lawyer, should we hire a groundwater scientist? You know, we understand your concern. And I don't think any one of us.
Yeah, and we didn't
Oh, okay,
didn't
well,
enter
if
this
you don't think we do, we
lightly.
don't.
I mean, honestly, it was not, oh, we're gonna jump in and do this.
Well,
We need to
The
be,
timeline was kind of, the optics weren't great on the timeline.
well, we need to be fiscally
What Mr.
responsible.
Dutton told me is that you were different from what he indicated tonight. What he indicated to me was 3M contacted you on a Friday and you voted on a Tuesday.
That's not what I said at all. I said that I learned about it on a Wednesday. I contacted law firm on a Thursday, found out that we could join on Friday, and that,
Okay, and you voted on Tuesday.
yes,
This
that's
is a
right.
big deal
Wow,
for
big decision.
the
Okay.
public to not have had
Okay,
a
well,
little bit more.
but we did, how could we have a little bit more if we didn't know it beforehand?
Why didn't you
So-
wait for more public
Why,
input?
yeah, what was the rush? Why
You didn't
wasn't-
wait for public input, obviously.
We didn't adopt a regulation that has that kind of profound impact either. We're obviously not gonna satisfy you, so.
Well, I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, the optics look really bad.
And
We
that's
acknowledge
the-
that right from the get-go.
Okay, that's why
We-
we're talking.
Okay.
We're allowed to express our opinion,
Right.
as are you.
And we totally get it, and we're not trying to poo-poo anything. It's just, we don't know how to make this work right now to get rid of things and be fiscally responsible for our ratepayers and do the right thing for the environment at the same
So
time.
what are
And we're
all the
trying to do a
other
balance.
wastewater, there's 70, Mr. Dutton told me there were 70 wastewater
84.
treatment plants in the state of New Hampshire that are also subject to the same set of circumstances.
Correct.
The
They're
six-
waiting.
The 69 others didn't join 3M in the lawsuit. What are they doing?
Well, several, the municipal association is submitting.
One today, right? The
Yep.
municipal
Yes.
association
uh,
joined today.
11
So they're
I'm
they're
guessing
coming.
they found themselves
It's
in the same
just-
situation we were in. We
Right.
didn't know that there was gonna be an action that we could participate in.
Right.
A lawsuit.
Yes, sir.
3M.
I guess the last point that I have is that I wish the lawsuit that you were involved with would be joining with the state of New Hampshire to sue 3M and
Yes,
all of the other
that's
manufacturers
Exactly
of
right.
all the PFAS chemicals. Because I think history has proven that the tobacco industry, the gasoline industry, and other industries have hidden a lot of data over years and years, years and years. And my guess is 3M and some of these other manufacturers knew something when they didn't reveal that information. And I think if the state of New Hampshire is going to be successful in any fashion, they are going to win the lawsuit similar to the tobacco lawsuit, and similar to the Exxon lawsuit with the MBTE.
Well said.
That's how we're going to be funding some of the things that we need to do collectively to solve this problem.
And if that funding comes to play, then you can be sure that we will take advantage of it so we can start cleaning this up.
I think
It's
if you
not
are-
that we don't want to clean it up. It's we don't know how to clean it up.
Yeah,
It keeps
I-
coming back to that.
I completely, I'm dealing
You know,
with-
it's the,
Has Franklin John sued with the state against 3M?
No, they have not.
No.
But, I mean, in Franklin, we are dealing with PFAS on a variety of different properties.
Right.
Somewhat associated with the very nearby fire station.
Well, the state.
Yeah, from the
you're
phone,
host-
from
you're
the
host
firefighting
of the
phone.
regional, of the Winnipesaukee River Basin wastewater facility. So they're dealing with the same
They've
issues.
got to be dealing with the
The difference
same
is,
issues.
however, they pass 100% of their cost off to the communities that they serve. So the state doesn't incur any cost in these. We've had these conversations.
Yeah.
There is a lot involved in this, and our understanding, we have separate counsel from 3M. Because we understood
Yeah, we're
right
not
from the
with their
get-go
attorney.
that there could be a divergence of interest in this. And so part of our challenge is, you're putting words in our mouths, some of you, in terms of we're trying to be relieved from responsibility. What we're
We're
trying to
not.
do is get back to a point where there is some rational conversation about
how do
what
we
the
do
standards
this?
are going to
How
be.
do we do this?
Who is responsible to comply with the standards, and how are those costs going to be
Right.
paid for?
How do we
Because we
do
have
this?
a problem very similar to Franklin's problem. And,
Yeah.
for
Right.
those of you who live here, one of the issues that we've discovered in our research is the median household income in this community is 228 out of 234. So, and we're dealing with setting rates earlier today where we built in a lifesaver provision for people who can't afford even to pay their basic water. I mean, we're not taking the responsibility lightly. We're not turning our backs on the fact that there's environmental issues. As I said earlier, we're in the environmental business.
So what Mr. Lewis is saying is, why aren't you suing 3M to help them?
Because we have no standing in that. We
Right.
don't have a plant
What? You
here
have
that's
a- you
3M.
have-
Opposing progress.
You
No, we're
do
not
have-
opposing progress
you
at all.
do
I mean,
have-
that's your view, but we don't view it that way.
You do have standing against 3M. You're being charged to deal with their residue, right?
We have no proof
Well,
that it's their residue that
right.
they generate.
How do we
It
know
comes-
it's 3M's?
but the majority of it comes out of the human bodies that flush into, because we understand from the people we're talking to that virtually all human bodies in this country
Yes.
perhaps
that's
in the
exactly
world.
Right, yes.
have PFAS.
So we did in the 70s, 60s, 70s.
Well, we don't know that because we weren't testing that then.
So we're trying to deal with the world in Plymouth and the surrounding, and I get it that, you have a different view. And we're really trying hard to kind of balance.
I think we're looking at the broader picture.
Yeah,
We're looking at
I
New
get it.
Hampshire. We're looking at our environment.
Yep.
Definitely. And I mean, we are as well, but because we are responsible here for the town of Plymouth, that is where our focus has to be.
Why do you think 3M is started, like, why are they doing this? If they're not liable, why are they bringing this lawsuit?
I don't know the answer to that question. All I know is the reason that we are in this lawsuit is to find out what the state is thinking.
Well, 3M
In
must
making their-
feel vulnerable,
Well,
right?
let them feel vulnerable. That's not our concern.
So I agree with Mr. Lewis that you're on the wrong side of this lawsuit.
That's, it's where we are at the moment. And so we can be on the wrong side right now. We're waiting to hear what the result is. And then we decide how we want to move forward. And the only other thing I can say is we all have to take into consideration what we're eating from, what we're cooking on, and that will help us mitigate some of the issue that we're seeing, because then our parts per trillion and our wastewater won't be as high. So if we're all thinking that this is going to be a problem, then we all have to make lifestyle changes. And
That's
it
the
is,
goal.
right?
That's the goal.
It is, right?
And you're trying to block that goal right now.
That's not true. You may see it that way, as Don said, but that is not true.
What standards would be acceptable to you?
We don't
We
know. We're
don't
not
know.
scientists.
We're not the scientists
But
who
we-
are studying
we
this.
would like-
That's what we're waiting to find out.
Yeah.
That's what we want to know.
In the packet of information that you picked up, somewhere in there
Oh, I
is.
have a lot of data, I see.
I know, but there is the article from the scientists
Steve, I saw you.
that we're having conversations with. And to me, that's one of the most profound articles that I've read on all of this. I mean, if you're following PFAS, it's not like anybody has a specific answer in terms of the right way to go. For everybody who says the world is going to end because of PFAS, there's somebody else who says, we don't have to worry about it. And so and that's perhaps an extreme exaggeration, but the fact of the matter is, we're getting information from both sides, and the scientist that we use, who is advising us, among others, says that the standard that the state has set may not be attainable. And all we're asking is for the state to come back to the table and reopen the conversation.
Great. Let's talk
and
about this and figure it out.
receive input. The last meeting we went to, I didn't go, the last meeting these folks went to, they closed the meeting without allowing a single person to offer input. And it was at that meeting that they changed the standard by almost 100%.
How many people offered input when you made your vote?
None, because we didn't have a public hearing, nor are we obligated to. We don't have a statute that says how we will conduct the public hearing. They have a statute that says how they will comply, and they didn't comply with the statute.
Steve?
Can I make one?
Hang on, Steve.
suggestion?
Steve was waving at me first. Stop
Yeah.
fighting. Steve first.
Butting in.
And it is Dick. Sorry, I keep calling you Bill. You should have corrected me.
I didn't go first.
It is Dick.
How about that? So, so I would like to encourage you to state for the record that if this suit fails at the Superior Court, that you will, before you take any other action, have a public hearing so that the public can understand and be okay with proceeding to a next level. That's what I would like to see happen.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
I think that would be very appropriate. I think it's hard for me to see how it could possibly
And there.
how it will ever end there, because the way these things work.
Well, it's also
always-
incredibly complicated. You know, it's
Right.
not just black and white. It's not, okay, we can put a filter on our water and it'll be fine. It's just way more complicated than that. And that's part of the reason for the lawsuit, is because we need to get the scientists involved. We need to figure out what the right way it is to go about cleaning this up. I mean, we don't even know how to do that, because parts per trillion, there is no way to clean up anything that small.
If I may add, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
think, it would help a lot of folks understand better if they looked at the comparison of the proposed arsenic standard, what the cost-benefit analysis
Oh,
entails
that's just changed.
for
too,
that
that's right.
standard compared to what DES had provided for our current PFAS standard. I think that would help explain a lot of the concern there with lack of information.
You talk about the drinking water standard.
Yeah, the new arsenic drinking water standard.
I hate to lose Steve's point. Do you need to take a vote, or are you gonna put it in the notes that you agree?
No,
we'll
we just agreed to do a
this? Okay.
meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Dick, please, you should have yelled at me before when I called you Bill.
That's okay.
No, it's not okay. I apologize.
That's okay.
He gets called a lot worse.
I would, as a customer and user of the drinking water supply and the wastewater treatment plant, I always look forward to my quarterly bills. I would like to see you spend a little bit of time putting some kind of an informational flyer in the bills And, name names. Don't buy Gore-Tex, don't buy
Yeah,
Glide.
absolutely.
Oh, you can go
Or
online and
Well,
it's
I think-
hundreds.
Well, but a lot of people don't go online, and I think if you could
Yeah.
put together
We
like
could
a
probably
one-page
put a little flyer
put that in the
together
bill.
saying,
Put it in the bill every
we
quarter.
could put something in the bill that says common PFAS containing items.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
And you
put-
can make a decision what to
Or
buy.
put the URL in there so that, or make it into a tiny URL so that people can actually.
We can scan it with our
access
phones, right?
No, no, no.
Oh, you mean just make a link?
But you can convert it into a tiny.
Sure, we could do a
URL.
URL too and have it on the website.
And it's something that people can do.
It's-
We do currently have a fact
I
sheet
know.
posted on our website.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you try to read it
We
though?
can just,
It's really hard to read.
That's how complex this issue is.
No, I mean, the font is like
Oh,
so
sorry.
tiny, you can't hardly read it.
You have to go to the source so you
Yeah,
can
to
actually
get
get
it.
it, so I did that.
We tried.
I could
Yep.
actually read it, but the one that's on your website,
I think
Can't read it.
Dick's simplified approach is very smart.
yep.
I mean, I think life is full of unintended consequences, and if we have more information to make better choices.
What was the
then
mantra
life-
back
life
in
will
the
improve.
60s? Better living through chemistry?
Well, that didn't prove out.
I was gonna say, and
That
So
might have
if
started the
you're
whole problem.
accepting
Seems
waste
better.
from other places that's not, and you know it's coming with PFAS contamination.
how do we know that?
You could test it.
Not up to us to test it, up to them
No,
to
when
test it.
if you're taking it, why not stop taking it since you know it's contaminated with stuff, with PFAS?
But we don't. And that's,
So why don't you test it before you accept
It
material
all
that
go-
would add PFAS to
It
the
all goes back to
water
where is it gonna
district?
go?
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not our problem, it's not ours. If it's coming from outside the district, why are you taking it?
I suspect that's really impossible.
Right.
What do you mean
It's just,
impossible?
Well, I mean, what's the time for tests?
2 to 4 weeks.
right. So you're having all these septic haulers with septic
You
trucks.
started this whole thing with saying it's in all our bodies and it's in all our
Right.
waste. So why are we accepting stuff from outside the district?
So where will
We
it
know.
go?
Where will it go?
Not your problem.
It is our problem.
It is our
You're-
problem.
You're sitting here telling us that PFAS is our problem, the global our.
But you're
And
taking
now
it
you're
into
telling
your
us-
system.
But it's in our
But
system.
at some point where, you know where it goes? It winds up with somebody backing up in the woods and dumping it in the woods.
That's
If you
right.
don't take my
Far worse.
word for it, talk to the guys at DES. That's one of the issues, is
We actually
people
had
get
someone
rid
in
of
Plymouth
nasty
who was doing
stuff.
that.
that's how we wound up in this country building wastewater plants, because people got rid of nasty stuff. And how did they get rid of it? They built trenches and it went into our rivers. And
Love
so
Canal.
we
Yeah,
come
Love Canal,
along
exactly.
and we create these things. It's
But it
true.
also drives a market. There's a demand for cleaning up the
So
PFAS,
when,
the
so if
science
you,
will come
if
along.
you had a septic tank in your yard and were not hooked up to the sewer, okay, and it filled up and there were no septic trucks to come and cart it away and send it somewhere, what would you do?
I have no idea. Not my-
That's,
not my area.
We would find a
Government.
solution, because that's. the way
That's
we
what we're
work.
trying to do.
that's
what we're
exactly
trying to
what
do.
we're trying to do. So,
Maybe coming at it from different
yeah,
directions.
but do you understand, like, our neighbors who have septic tanks are flushing their toilets and washing their wash and doing the same thing we're doing. Our stuff is going to our wastewater treatment plant. Their stuff is going into their septic tank. Their septic tank is going to get full.
So, you know,
And the question is,
one of the solutions is,
What-
if there's no other place to bring this stuff, then you have a really great revenue model, you know, and we can use the money to clean up the stuff.
exactly,
And because,
I'm not
Exactly.
planning to do that.
well, I mean, it's like, right, so.
Technology.
well, and that's part of the issue, you know, we're bringing in money from this stuff that's coming to us, so we can treat it at least at the level that we're treating it. Because again, if you have a septic tank and you've got somebody who's gonna pump it and there's nowhere for them to dump it, they're gonna dump it somewhere.
Have you made improvements in the last 10 years in terms of wastewater?
Yes.
Why can't you do that in the next 10 years?
We're in the process of investing 17 or 18 million dollars in upgrading the system.
Right.
Starting next week.
I mean, called American ingenuity.
Exactly. We don't know what the ingenuity is right now. So
But
go
right
home,
now-
design,
The
go
problem
home,
is you want
design
us
it.
to, you want us to implement today, when the state is able to tell us what the solution is, what the technology is, then we can consider those kinds of things.
Yeah, we just don't
But
have
the
it.
problem is, no one's coming up with the solutions. The state, if you read the information the state is providing, you know, they're talking about building an incinerator. The problem is, there are no incinerators in the region. Manchester has an incinerator, but it's not hot enough to destroy PFAS. So there are not solutions that are, and we have, how many tons of septic waste, or how many tons of sludge do we generate a week? 6, 5?
It's about 4 to 6 tons a day, so about 30 tons a week.
So we're generating this stuff, and we've got to do something with it now.
Right, we
And,
can't let
I
it
mean,
back up.
You know, one of the issues is, you know, if we can't send it off-site, stockpile it. You have business on Main Street. It won't take but maybe 3 loads.
I'm even closer than that.
So that's something we have looked into technologies to try to reduce our volume.
Right,
yeah,
and that
dewatering
is
of
something that
Dryer
we're working on.
technologies To
But
try to reduce it. as
It's
much as
that,
we
it's
can.
that science there to get rid of PFAS that's missing. And so I know you're talking about American ingenuity. That's great. Let's get the engineers, let's get the scientists, let's come up with something to get rid of it. But we don't have that answer right now, so we don't know how to do it.
I bet 3M will figure it out. If they're held liable for getting rid of the stuff, they'll
Maybe.
figure it out.
And how
Well-
long will the lawsuit take? 20 years? And so for 20 years, what are you
I
going to
know,
do?
it's
Wait,
just-
we need to do something, we know that. Everybody here agrees with what you're saying for the most part. We're all trying to solve the same thing.
Same problem,
But the problem
exactly.
the problem is today, and the solution is down the road. So what do you do today? That's where we are. I mean, I've sat here all through this and said nothing. And then my background is I'm a moderator, and I would have cut things off much sooner.
I know, he's
than
yelling
this.
at me over here, you have to stop.
Because you can say the same point 35 times and it doesn't make any difference. We understand where you're coming from.
We've
We don't
agreed to have
disagree
them.
100%, we disagree some, but we're in an impasse.
Right.
It's not gonna change what's happening because it's in motion and we don't have a solution. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have at this point in time.
And I wish we had better answers.
And I would love to be able to say we could put something on our plant and get that out of there
Exactly.
next week, because that would be great for us. It's not there. It's
There's
not
no
there.
science to tell us how to do it.
So until there's something there, all we can do is the absolute best we can do. And I'm not a commissioner, I'm just the treasurer, I sign the checks, but I've listened to all of this, and this is my summary of it.
Your 2 cents.
Amen.
My 2 cents worth.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for comments. We appreciate them, and really, please understand that we're working as hard as we can to try and figure this out.
3M.
And our next upcoming meeting is, do we really want Thanksgiving?
It's up to you.
Where are we?
We'll be here if you so
Are we
command.
all-
I'm fine with it, it doesn't matter.
Everybody
I'm
around?
okay with it. yeah.
Okay, I'm
You
okay.
prefer another
Bob?
date? You want to move it up a
That's
week
great
for
for
you,
me.
Judy?
No, everybody's okay. I was just making sure.
No, I'm good with it.
All right, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Click.
Second.
Thank you.